And welcome back to the highlight. We're talking rated and slated. We're going to rate and slate the drivers for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Who was a hero and who was a zero? Who looked like it was going to be a hero, then went down to a zero. I mean, we can definitely say the same about Lando Norris, because coming into the weekend, championship favourite, let's be fair, he got a fairly good result. But I think in terms of his reputation, did himself no favours, along with other people of the entire Red Bull team. For example, whoops a daisy, had they forgot how to do a decent pit stop? Yes, at one point they were world champions in terms of pit stops. Now, yeah, maybe not so much. But let's get into the drivers. And last, pretty much by default, because he got disqualified, sadly, Nico Hülkenberg in the States. However, his underfloor wore too much, was worn too much down. He has recently been DQ'd as of a couple of hours after the race, which is really kind of sad. I'm disappointed, to say the least. But there we go. That's Nico Hülkenberg. Next up, a man who got a feast of penalties. I know he's not in the Red Bull team anymore, but Liam Lawson, a feast of penalties in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Oh, I mean, he's had I couldn't think of a worse start to the season than Liam Lawson has had. Not necessarily all his own fault, but being dropped by Red Bull and then not really matching up to Isaac Hadjar. I mean, he ended up finishing 17th. He qualified fairly low down as well, from what I remember. 17th, yeah. Started 17th, finished 17th. Liam. Next up, Bortoleto. Kind of like an anonymous weekend. Yes, he is in the slowest car. I mean, he was the essentially last if you take away Sainz's finish, and he qualified 18th. So he's out qualified by his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, which was weird. It seems like Hülkenberg seems to have the measure of him, at least over the last 2 weekends. Our next disappointment, let's say, is Carlos Sainz. Oh, he qualified so well. He showed so much promise. And then came the race and he looked exceedingly average, didn't he? I mean, in the race, yes, he retired. He made lots of mistakes, partly because he had a massive hole in the car. It was his fault. Let's be fair. I think, at the very least, I think it was his fault. So Carlos Sainz looking very much like average Sainz. I remember coming into the year, everyone was like, oh, Ferrari, you've made a big mistake swapping Carlos with Lewis Hamilton. Now people are thinking maybe not so much, but hopefully Carlos, come the next race, he's the kind of driver that can have a shocking race and then absolutely bang tidy win the next race. Well, okay, not win in the Williams, but I imagine do potentially fairly well. Another guy who, well, he constantly disappoints as of last year, but he has, as I keep saying, he's had a solid start to the year. But now, yeah, not so much, is Lance of the Stroll. Oh dear, Lance. Qualifying right at the back, okay, it wasn't his fault. So we look to the race. What inspiration? 18th, yeah. 18th for the race. Oh, Lance. So next up, we've got Lance's teammate Alonso, one of the few men, I think is the only man, or one of the few men not to score points. He is pointless in the championship, where Lance tried to score 10. Yes, it hasn't all gone his way. I appreciate that. But Alonso finishing 16th, qualifying 13th. Not good enough, really, for everyone says one of the best drivers. I appreciate he hasn't got the car, and let's be fair, a lot of F1 is down to the car. Next up is Jack doing okay, slightly better than the last race. I mean, he finished what? Finished 15th, and he qualified 11th, but still he was a couple of highlights, but overall fairly anonymous during the race. And when you're under pressure for your seat, that's not what you want. But Isaac Hadjar, a guy that's not under pressure for a seat, didn't do particularly well. I mean, he qualified what? He qualified 12th. He ended up finishing 14th. His worst weekend of the year. But if you take away Australia, if I'm honest, because that was just silly. But yeah, in terms of race pace, kind of average. But we know it could be circuit dependent, so I don't want to be too mean to him. Alexander Albon, he had an absolutely shocking qualifying, didn't he? For Alexander Albon, he had a shocking qualifying. Probably could have got a bit better, but there we go. 15th, qualifying 15th for Alexander Albon, finishing just a couple of places away from the points. But yeah, the most anonymous weekend I think Alex Albon has had so far in 2025. a guy that's not had an anonymous weekend is Pierre Gasly, scoring points for the Alpine team in 7th. Well done, Pierre Gasly. And let's be fair, he started on the second row of the grid after those Mercedes, those Mercedes penalties, let's say, for being naughty in the pit lane and releasing their cars too soon. So absolutely well done to Pierre Gasly. You have done very well. And also a massive well done to this guy here. I put him one place above Pierre Gasly because there's been so much pressure on the second Red Bull seat. He did so bad in Japan, his home race. He qualified 10th in Q3. That's something Liam Lawson couldn't do. And for the race, he finished 9th. His first points for Red Bull. The first Red Bull points by a second driver, no less, this year. So absolutely well done. Fantastically well done to Red Bull's Yuki Tsunoda. No, he's not in the V car. But next up, we've got Max Verstappen. So, Max Verstappen, average. Again, okay, he qualified 7th and he ended up finishing 6th. Once again, a difficult car. And I think a lot of Verstappen fans are learning, just like us Hamilton fans are learning, just like us McLaren fans back in the day when they had Alonso in the Honda are learning with Jenson Button, that it is the car. The car has so much to do with it. Having said that, he did have an awesome Japan, didn't he? But there we go. Max Verstappen next up. So we're getting to the average to good drivers now. And a good driver, although he didn't score points, was Kimi Antonelli. Yes, he finished just outside of the points, 11th, which was a shame. But he qualified 5th. It would have been the second row, but a brilliant qualifying session. I think Mercedes potentially didn't give him the best strategy for the race, but he was very entertaining during that race. And no, he's not from Great Britain. I need to sort that out as well. Ollie Behrman. Okay, next up. Yes, he shocking qualifying, 20th. But when you go from 20th to 10th in a Haas, which, let's be fair, isn't the best car, you've done very well, Ollie Behrman. Another guy that did equally well is Ollie Behrman's teammate, Esteban Ocon. He finished 8th, and he qualified for, what was it, 14th. But he finished 8th. So both Haas drivers, absolutely fantastic race. They can both be really proud of themselves. Pat on the back. Very much a pat on the back for that. So next up is Charles Leclerc. So why is he behind Lewis Hamilton? Well, he did out-qualify Lewis Hamilton. He didn't do too bad. But in the race, he got a very average start. Got himself beaten by Lando Norris. Got himself beaten at the start by George Russell. And then just had a very... it was just Charles Leclerc being there. He was just making up the numbers seemingly. A solid result, but not particularly great in the race, even though it was a good qualifying. But next up is his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Yes, he was the man of the race for the for the official Formula One. But we like to judge a whole weekend, and a whole weekend being out qualified by your teammate by a significant amount was not particularly good. But then starting, I think what was it, 9th in the end, and finishing 5th wasn't too bad, and some very nice overtakes. I think that should give Lewis Hamilton a lot of confidence coming into the next race in Saudi Arabia. So well done, Lewis Hamilton, and he is our 3rd place guy on the 3rd place podium. Who is at number 2? Well, no, I can assure you it's not Esteban Ocon. It is this guy right here, the guy that won, Oscar Piastri. Perfect result. Perfect weekend. Why is he not at the top? Well, I don't think he exceeded expectations. He met his expectations. He matched his expectations. He was on pole. After FP2, he looked absolutely synonymous, in control of the weekend. Didn't walk away, but was very comfortable at the front. And nailed the safety car restart. Nailed the start. But he wasn't really, I'll say, under pressure for his lead in the race at any point. But a guy who was under pressure is our man of the race, and it is George Russell. He probably shouldn't have finished 2nd. He got an amazing start. He was there. He didn't trouble, but he was always in the shadow of Oscar Piastri for the first part of the race. Managed to make those soft tyres work at the end, and held off Lando Norris. Now, I think I missed Lando Norris, didn't I? Did I miss Lando Norris? I may have done. Well, Lando Norris is way back. Let's quickly talk about Lando Norris. I'm sure I spoke about Lando Norris No, I didn't speak about Lando Norris. What is this? What is this amateur hour? But Lando Norris, if I didn't speak about him, let's talk about him now, because he's right down in the doldrums. He's kind of like a very average to middling race did Lando Norris have. We are going to slate him. Should have been on the front row, didn't. Disastrous qualifying. Disastrous, not start, but putting your car in the grid box. Yeah. And then absolutely getting a, 5-second penalty because of it. Amateur hour. But he did get an absolutely amazing start. And after that start, he just couldn't get past George Russell. He struggled to get past Charles Leclerc. He forgot how to race. And then he just kind of like belittled himself in front of everybody, so making him look a bit wet. Lando, we all know you're better than this. You can do better. You most certainly can do better than this. Oh, Lando. But George Russell, absolutely fantastic. Him, yeah, Piastri and Lewis Hamilton, I just wanted to say well done. But our man of the weekend is George Russell. So, as always, let's go through all of the drivers from worst to best. We've got Hulkenberg, disqualified. Lawson hits people. Oh dear, penalty. Bortoletto, average. Sainz decides to hit people again. Stroll, he's Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso, no points so far. Jack Doohan, he needs to do more to keep his seat. Isaac had your worst weekend so far, but still. Alexander Albon, he kind of like, where were you? Average. Lando Norris, mistake after mistake after mistake. Should have finished second. Should have qualified at least second. No dear. Pierre Gasly, points. Well done. Yuki Tsunoda, first points for Red Bull. Fantastic. Max Verstappen had a troubled car and a very average weekend and belittled by an absolutely disastrous Red Bull team in the pits. Kimi Antonelli next. Okay, didn't score a point, but was very entertaining. Ollie Behrman from 10th to, well, from 20th to 10th. Need I say more? Charles Leclerc. Average. Okay start, held it, not too bad. Lewis Hamilton, bad qualifying, but a very good solid race. Piastri, perfect weekend, but he doesn't get the top slot because it's George Russell, against all odds, I think, ended up finishing second. That is our top guy. That is our drivers rated and slated. And if you made it to the end, give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. Hit that notification button if you haven't. And then I guess we will speak to you soon. Thank you very much. Stay safe.